Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC and filled with all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and ways that we can shift our perspective so that we can live a little bit more of a reasonable life. Living a reasonable life means living a life where we're not asking other things to change for us. We're here being present in our lives, doing what we need to do to make our lives better. Sometimes we get into contracts with people in which state that, oh, this is the person that I'm going to be. And we believe that it would be unfair of us to be someone else. That happens, when we're children, really first. Our parents want us to be a certain way, and we agree to that. We agree to that so that we can be cared for, so that we can be loved, so that we can continue to be part of the tribe, and be part of the group, be part of the family. When we can pick up these frames of reference that say, oh, if I am this way, then I will get love. If I am this way, I will be threatened. So it's important for us to recognize that those things did happen to us, that we have poor frames of reference that we picked up as children when we had no frame of reference, and realize that we can do what we want. We can now. That doesn't mean we can do what we want to other people. We can do what we want for our lives, for ourselves. And the Tao helps us kind of realize that, helps us kind of see how we can live more reasonably, how we can live in a way that we're living for ourselves and not for other people. We're not dictating our lives through contracts maybe we inadvertently agreed to before we were able to understand what it meant. So, I'm here to just sort of guide through the Tao. There's 81 chapters, and what I do is I invite you up to pick a number between 1 and 81. There are 81 chapters in the Tao, and each of them have different sorts of ways of looking at life and looking at living so that we can get a different perspective. And the Tao Te Ching, for those who don't know it, starts with the idea that words are particular. So even though we're talking about it, that doesn't mean that's the end game. It's not the reason that we're here. It's not the reason that it's here. The reason it's here is to be present with yourself. Max, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Martin John. How are you doing today?
Oh, how did everything turn out yesterday with the commotion?
It lasted for about 3 hours, till about 9 o'clock.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then it continued later on in the day.
It happens. It's hard,
Yeah. I'm this is funny because he just came back to the unit after eloping for 3 months, so we had 3 months of peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And now he's back, and I'm just but it is what it is. I coped my own way. Well, I tried to cope my own way. I put my headphones on and just listened to loud music, but then my headphones died, and I was like, really? Right now? So
it's energetic,
Yes, it is.
You have something to face here. You have something
exactly. The universe was telling me you need to cope another way, and so I just went into my room and meditated and tried to meditate throughout with all the noise, and it actually it did help. It did create a more a less overwhelming sensation, I would say. Good. Yeah, so I got through it. It was all right. Yeah. But my morning's been good so far. I'm having my coffee and Just got a heat pack on because my body is killing me. But other than that, life is good.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear
Life
that.
is easy.
Yeah. You want to pick a number?
Yeah, sure. Let's do lucky number 13.
Lucky number 13. This is finding equality at the extremes. I don't know if we've read this yet.
I don't think so. Not with me, at least.
All right. Well, finding equality at the extremes is, very much, just like what you experienced yesterday, the idea of
I was just
looking
say that.
looking for peace when there is, chaos, right?
Yeah.
And understanding that there's something equal about the two. And so what it says here is to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable. Creation and destruction are equally present within us. What do I mean by to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable? Well, the more you succeed, the more you protect it by hiding failure. The more you associate with failure, the more you embody it. When neither success nor failure is identified as the destination, being becomes the objective. What do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present within us? Having a body and a mind with which I identify gets me involved in the manifestation. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, and so naming them, I both create and destroy, neither of which are unique. To see yourself with indifference, you will have faith in all things. To see your world, to see the world with indifference, you will be able to care for it all.
Interesting. What was the title of this one?
Finding equality at the extremes.
At the extremes. Okay. So I really identify with the identification phrase where it said basically if you set an identification for yourself, you're setting yourself up to create actions that go along with that identification.
The manifestation convinces me of my actions.
The manifestation.
And so the manifestation, this is what I think you're referencing. The manifestation convinces me of my actions. And so naming them, I both create and destroy, neither of which are unique.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going for. Yeah. I really like that part because, when you put a manifestation or a label or a category on something, you're destroying the meaning of it. Like you're destroying not the concept, but like just what it is, what it's meant to be, what it's supposed to be, because then you're putting actions towards it which may not align with what it's kind of meant to be. And
so what this is, I've talked about this more, and I think I can express that a little clearer, maybe. Yeah. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, meaning as I'm out in the world, I do this. I do this. This thing where I say, "Oh, when I do this, I get this, so this is good." And so when I do A, B happens. And the thing is that's not necessarily true.
No,
the manifestation convinces you that it's true. Right. And that's what this is saying, right? Like it says, when you get a job, you are able to support yourself, right? That's what the manifestation teaches us. However, people supported themselves well before there were ever any jobs. So that's not necessarily, correlation. It's causation, right? Like, but they don't necessarily correlate. And so the manifestation convinces me of my actions. And that's the thing. Like, we could look out in the world and say, this is what I witness of everybody else. But really, we have to once again remember that I'm perceiving this from my perspective. So it's only convincing me of this. Like, and maybe even other people are telling me this, but I can only trust my perception, being my ears are the thing hearing this. Once again, what someone says and what I hear are not necessarily exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly like how we talked about yesterday with my dad and his art. Like, his parents pushed and pushed and pushed him to become this famous artist and blah, blah, blah. But he perceived his art as a coping mechanism. And those two clashed and kind of formed destruction. Where I think there was a line of, what was the line of there was a word destruction in there.
Yeah. It's the next line. And so naming them, I both create and destroy.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, oh, here we go. He's starting already. Oh, good grief. Starts with the clapping and then just gets louder. Yeah, so like I was saying, it kind of like my grandparents with my dad thought, oh, he's an amazing artist, so he's going to make a lot of money. Well, my dad thought, well, I'm an artist, so why don't I just use that to cope and do it for the reasons I want to do it for? And that caused a lot of friction I know that it caused a lot of friction between him and his parents.
Right. And so his parents did this whole thing, like the manifestation convinced them of their actions. Yeah. And then they defined their actions and they said, okay, this is how one makes a living. This is how one becomes safe. This is how one does this thing. And so they create that story and destroy anything else.
Exactly.
Anything that's outside of that story.
Nothing else mattered. Nothing else matters. Like, it's like a lot. It goes along with like a lot of people that like seek like fame and fortune and things like that. They become kind of, not robotic, but like shallow. I don't want to put a label on people, but like they become destructive. They destroy who they really are. Like they're
like we have to be a little bit more like they don't know they're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. I believe it's totally,
so they're not. Yeah, they're innocent. And this is why what I say at the end of my talks is always recover yourself, right? Keep recovering yourself. Because the idea is you'll never completely recover yourself. Like, I don't think that's, I mean, because like,
it's an ongoing thing and you'll eventually die.
Because you're constantly changing.
Yeah.
You're constantly changing. And so, like, recovering to who you would be if you had no external influence, but that's impossible, right? Mm-hmm. There's always external influence. And then being able to look at that influence and understand myself through the experience that I'm having is really, this is constant evolution and this is constant growth. And then your dad may have, he was convinced of his actions as well, maybe because he had something to fight against. If he didn't have his parents pushing in one direction, he may have been a completely different person.
He may have, I mean, I believe that because I believe if they had just supported him in his art, he would have at least done something with it other than using it as just a coping mechanism. But
Well,
I
what
think
is your dad's career? Because I believe he's using his art in his career.
he is. He's a car mechanic. He's a master tech
Yeah.
at Audi and Volkswagen.
Right.
So
Like that's
he
problem solving. That's all
is
art. That's all art.
absolutely. And my parents did create a children's book that they tried to get published and stuff. So he did do art for a little while as like a monetary value, but now he uses art in a different way and like you said, problem solving and using his creative mind to create the solution to the problem of the car.
And so also for you, like this picking this is like also for you to see, because you're the one who picked this, you to see that in this experience, like whether he's doing it for monetary gain or whether he's doing it, there's equality there.
Yeah.
And it's like it is what he needs to be fulfilled in his and it's not, there's no difference. And just like for you, like, okay, you could be disturbed by the noise, but you can also be disturbed by the silence.
Exactly.
You know?
It's kind of like two ends of the spectrum. Like, I feel like sometimes I can be a very black and white person. I try to be in the gray, and it's funny because my last name is Gray. Yeah. But I try to be in the gray more often now, but I used to be a very black and white person. I used to be like, it's either this or this, and there's nothing else. But now I'm more open to equality, I guess. And like the fact that, two things can coexist at the same time. Radical acceptance, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, and taking into consideration your affinity for, being a contrarian, you're being a contrarian. Like contrarians, like look at these opposites. I do the same. They look at the extremes. Well, what about this? Or and it's like, okay, well, how can I surrender to that middle ground? How can I surrender to both at the same time?
Like, how do I make sense of like being at peace with this destructive noise? Like, how do I do that? Like, I was like frenzied by it, but
right.
I managed.
And once it gets in your mind, it stays there and it continues to and so and just like in this one where it says to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable. It doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem like that could be true. But it is. And so it's important to be able to look at that. Natasha, we're going to get to you in a moment. I'm just going to bring Max up. We're going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to pull you up.
Yeah, no, this was a great reading, and I really like this one because like equality. Oh my God! now I'm remembering the quality part and not the last part of the title. Equality,
finding the extremes.
In the extremes, exactly. So I have a lot of extremes in my life. I mean, I've had like addiction, I've had a lot of trauma, I've had a lot of hospitalizations. There's an ambulance in the background. But like, I've had a lot of extremes happen, but finding that peace and that kind of growth through it, rather than sitting miserable and just kind of dwelling on it, is really important to me. I'd rather grow through what I go through. You know what I mean? But like, kind of finding peace in, I forgot if you said destruction. No, finding peace in, finding equality in, give it to me, Martin John.
The extremes.
The extremes. Jeez, my memory is so bad. ADHD on the brain, man. All right.
Look, and that's sit with that too. Like those
Yeah.
are extremes, right? Like there's no need to just like, and sometimes you just give it up. Sometimes it's like, the title,
like,
whatever.
Whatever. I can't remember it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
All right, Martin John.
All
thank
right.
you for this.
Love you, man. We'll be in touch.
Too. Yeah, absolutely.
We're bringing Natasha up. Hey, Natasha, how are you? Okay, sometimes people come up and don't have their mic connected, so I can't hear you if you are speaking to me. Sometimes they come up and don't know that they've come up. So I often just let this ride for about a minute and see if we can fix any of the mic issues or anything like that, and then I will take you off stage. And if you are unfamiliar how this works, I invite you up so that we can just chat a little bit, and then I have you pick a number between 1 and 81. Max just came up and picked number 13, and then we talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching, if you're not familiar, is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC, filled with all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and advice on how to live a more reasonable life. I just took you off. Natasha, if you wanted to come back up, I'd be happy to bring you back if that was a mic problem or anything like that. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and pick a random number. Went to 79, conflict resolution, all the way to 79. Every conflict creates an other, right? And that's in parenthetical, so it's like, or quotes. So it's like every conflict creates an other. Like, I don't want you to be an other. I always want to be at one with you. I don't want to say like, you're different from me, right? That's us versus them kind of stuff. And I would prefer not to be against you in any way. So every conflict creates an other. Even after resolution, animosity remains. Is that good enough for you? Therefore, the master always does her part, keeping the peace and not placing blame, correcting her own actions without requiring the same from others. Tao doesn't care who's right. If you do, you'll find it difficult. I really appreciate this verse because it is so important in my life. It's so important, one, to recognize what conflict does. And before we enter into a conflict, ask ourselves, is this good enough for me? Is it good enough that, and this is how it reads in this verse, is it good enough that animosity is going to remain after this? Is it good enough for me that I am going to engage in something that is going to create animosity and that's going to linger afterwards? This isn't about being right. This is about the big picture. It's sort of, we've talked about this in terms of eating, where it's like, we'll eat something and it'll be delicious and good for us. We're eating something delicious. But on the other aspect, it's going to do something in our body for the next 12 hours, 24 hours, however long it takes to get expelled or get completely processed. So we judge eating by this aspect that only takes 20 or 30 seconds, the time it's in our mouth. And we don't look at the rest. And since I've been on my diet because of my MS, I've realized that, when I eat garbage, like I did last night, in a couple days, I'm going to be affected by it. I'm going to experience things that are, I'm going to experience mental fog. I may experience that. That is my experience thus far, is that's what happens. I don't want to create that for myself. Of course I could. It might not happen. But I have found that if I break my diet, that a couple days later I often have to deal with this idea that that's the food I ate. Like 3 days later, there's residue coming out of my system because I chose to break my diet. So when you choose to conflict with someone, you might argue, and that might be fine. And at the end of it, it might clear up, and like they took your point of view, and everybody is okay. However, animosity is still in the air. Your relationship will not be the same. Now, it's not going to be the same anyway, because your relationship with somebody is going to change with every experience you have. However, if animosity remains, that's difficult. Hey, JK, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I am well. How was dinner last night?
I was having the same thing you are. It was good. I've just been I am not a fan of eating out all that much.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel well afterwards. So, I had a little bit of that. I didn't eat a lot of it, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter. And yeah, I mean, it was great. We had a great time. A lot of interesting things going on, that in that space, and just trying to understand, how I feel in a certain situation, or, what is this that's happening around me, and all that fun stuff. And I got to play a bit last night, and it was.
You got to play what?
Play around with that idea quite a
yeah.
bit. Just trying to figure out, how the environment and how things are, and some shiny things, and you see those things that are in front of you. I don't know, and are they really something I want to engage in? And there was a woman there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I keep hearing myself, but
you hear an echo?
No, I just hear myself.
Oh, okay.
It's in my own head. It might be from the walls, because it's there where I am. It's all stone, and the walls are concrete. So I think it's different than what I'm used to hearing. There's no cushion in here in this room. So the sound resonates a little different. But yeah, no, it was a good night. I did notice the food.
Now
I was
I can't hear you.
I didn't eat a lot of it, but I just was right away, I was this is not going to sit well.
You're breaking up now. I don't know how
Now
this is happening,
me?
but you're breaking up a bit. You were fine. You were absolutely fine. Crystal clear. Everything was good, but now you're breaking up. Man, I got nothing now. So crazy.
I don't know.
Oh, I got you back.
Oh, there you go. Something must be with the Wi-Fi, but anywho, yeah, it was a good night, and I don't like the food thing. It's a lot, when you're not home, you tend to have more of it, and more is not always better. But we'll see. I might just not eat today, just kind of chill out and feel better.
Yeah, fasting, I do fasting when I feel off. It's just kind of let me just reset my body. Let my body just kind of settle into itself, so it doesn't have to. So I don't have to keep filling it full of stuff. Even just taking a break from ingesting anything for 12 hours or whatever. It's always done me really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So I was wondering if you wouldn't mind reading number 39 for me.
Yeah. 39 is entitled Unity. And it's a little longer. So settle in. Unity is the standard. When achieved, all things are harmonious. Heaven achieved it through purity. Planets achieved it through solidity. Beings achieve it through purpose or life. Generation after generation, every individual finds their own unity, their own harmony. If heaven were to lose its purity, so too its union with planets. If planets were to lose their solidity, so too their union with beings. If beings were to lose their purpose or lives, without unity, all would perish and decay. The Master honors everything in every form. She knows that there is nothing between the highest and the lowest. Differentiating, we lose touch with unity. Always adjusting to find unity, the Master lets herself be lived, constantly being renewed and shaped by Tao, rugged and full of resolve. That's 39. Unity. What stood out to you, if anything?
I guess maybe the rugged part.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an interesting word.
Yeah, it's, it's interesting because the Tao really, moves us into a state of being like a stone. It's like, well, the stone doesn't care and it's not easily manipulated. And it talks about the primal dust, talks about, being rugged. It's like, it's not about, life isn't about being comfortable. And this unity is about like the unity. It talks about every individual. That doesn't necessarily mean every individual human. That means every individual being finds their own unity, their own harmony. That means every squirrel, every plant, every fish, every person, they find their own unity and their own harmony. And they live their lives. It's not about everything seeing, like, a human being isn't going to feel and find the same unity that, a person in Maine is going to be different than a person in California, than a person in Ireland. And then a person in other parts of the world, as well as different from every other being, every other kind of being there is. And what it says is if beings were to lose their purpose, without unity, all would perish and decay because we're all connected. And so as you find your purpose, as you live your life, And that's what happens when we get told what our lives are supposed to be. Things start to perish and decay. Like even the relationships that you have perish and decay when you're being a specific way. But when you're you, then you're actually giving life to so much other things. But being you isn't easy. I mean, life is easy, but being you, being us without being able to be manipulated by others makes us be rugged because it's hard. It's hard to go, like everybody's trying to make our lives easier so that we can make their lives easier. And that makes us comfortable, right? When we kind of go out and search for comfort in our relationships, search for comfort in our conversations, search for comfort in our food, search for comfort in everything we do, we lose the ability to be rugged. We lose the ability to look at what we're doing and the relationships we're upholding with critically, like look at it critically and be like, oh, wait, this is not healthy. And look at ourselves critically. And that's the ruggedness that we're talking about. The ruggedness is saying, I'm the one that's here. And I'm the one that's looking at all this. And yes, I want respite. But there's no real respite. Respite is within life. And it's part of that unity. Because it's like everything is here. You know, there's that one Tao that says, life is a gift received from Tao, and everything is sustained in support of that gift. Yes, everything around you is here supporting your life, but you still have to live it.
Yeah, that's interesting, because as I was interacting last night, I was comfortable with myself, and I'm not usually.
Yeah.
I talk a lot, and I didn't, again, I just kind of sat and I tried to connect with people, which I don't often try to do. And it was neat. It was neat to be able to be there and be present, and then also look around and see the other stuff happening. Like I was saying earlier, the shiny stuff.
Yeah.
And people, and it was funny because there was someone there, and I mean, honestly, it was extremely talented. Usually I would look at that person and compare myself to them.
Right.
And I didn't feel the need to, and I appreciated what they were bringing, but it allowed me to also see, it allowed me to see other pieces that are part of me, and say, oh, wow, okay, that's kind of cool, because I'm choosing to maybe not engage with that type of behavior. I'm choosing not to do that, because I know it's within me. I'm not better than that, but it was being able to look through somebody else and see parts of me, and then decide, maybe that's not, that doesn't really fit right now. That's not really me, and being able to decipher the shiny from the just what really is, I guess, it kind of takes the sheen off a little bit. And I saw that a couple of ways, and it was funny because I couldn't sleep. I had a hard time sleeping last night. There was a lot of, I couldn't settle. And after interacting out that evening, I did find myself, I started getting anxious, and I started just driving around. I was worried about this or that. But I was able to identify it. I felt the shift in my body. I could feel I don't know, my face gets hot. I notice my face gets very hot right away. And it's different than just being in a hot room. It's I can feel my ears burning.
Yeah.
And I know I'm something's going on here. You gotta just stop for a minute. And it's nice to be able to realize that and to be connected with myself, to be able to observe that, because then I can start intervening before and just checking in before it becomes, builds up, I guess. And anyway, so I came home and I listened to something, and I started thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. And I was like, but I don't want to be like that. It is, I could be like that. The same kind of idea. And they were very different experiences. One was more very overt. This person seemed kind of crazy, just a little out there. Whereas the other person, people were very attracted to her. But they were very much the same, which was so interesting to me. It was very distracted. And it was very, I guess, manifestation. I don't know what the right word is, but it was very much so that way. And it was really interesting to observe all of that as I'm interacting with this environment of mine,
Right, yeah.
I don't know if any of that makes sense, but...
Well, it does, and it does resonate with this always adjusting to find unity, and that's what you're doing. You're adjusting to find unity. You're adjusting to find that connection. And it says always adjusting to find unity. The master lets herself be lived. You had this experience, you sat with that experience, and you're constantly being renewed and shaped by Tao. You're being renewed at every moment, becoming a new person every moment, and it's being shaped by the experiences that you're having. And then what it says here at the end just is what you resonated with: rugged and full of resolve. Like it kind of makes you kind of like dig your heels in and say, this is who I am, and this is not who I want to be, and this is what I'm moving towards, and I'm going to keep going. You can have that experience of the shiny things. You can have that experience of all of that stuff, and you can be like, I'm not going to be baited into it, because I know I'm on the other side.
Yeah, and I had no desire to be, which was pretty cool. It was nice to be able to adjust and change and, I guess be rugged.
Yeah. Yeah. And and being rugged is and full of resolve. Like when I decided on those words, like that was purposeful. It was like, no, like it's a little dirty, and in this way of like getting your hands dirty. You just dropped off. If you wanted to continue talking, great. I got Susan on the line. I'm going to give it a second or two to give you. Thank you so much for coming up. So we're going to bring Susan up. Thank you all for listening. It's always a pleasure to do this. Hey, Susan, how are you, dear?
Martin, John, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm actually like you may know I'm going to be getting a tooth pulled. I'm one of my wisdom teeth after Christmas.
Finally.
Yeah, and this morning my jaw started hurting again, and I'm like, I got 25 days until this pulls. So
my God.
I don't know if it's getting infected again or if it's just a little bit of pain, but we'll ride it out.
Yeah, well, gargle with salt water.
Yeah, often. I got salt water, and I got an antibiotic rinse.
Good.
So
yes.
So we'll just it is we'll get through it. So what's going on with you?
Well,
how was the holiday? First off,
it was really, really good, but it was interesting. I mean, I had so much fun with my relatives. They're just all crazy, and we just all let loose, and all the cousins held hands and jumped in this ice cold swimming pool together, and it was just crazy. But my ex was there. He's the father of my children, and we're generally on very good terms, generally. But it turns out that he is being divorced by his fifth wife, I think.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
What number were you?
I was number one.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I'm always number one, Martin John.
Yes, it is.
So, anyway, everybody, we're having such a good time with the family, and there's like this aura of just wonderful peace and unity with everybody, and I'm my daughter says, maybe you and Dad should think about getting back together. And I actually considered it for a minute. Like, what if that would happen now, when he's too old to be having affairs anymore, when he's mellowed out? And I thought, no, Susan, you just don't go back like that. That's just goofy. That's just really goofy. So, but it threw me for a while, because I've never ever considered going back to him.
And if I could, it sounds like it's still rolling around. I mean, I know you've told yourself one thing, but it sounds like it's still like rolling around. Not that you're quote unquote considering it, but it's just as we get older, it's hard.
Exactly right, Martin John. It's rolling around because I felt just the beauty of my family being complete and being a complete unit, and working together and laughing together and having so much fun. I thought, wouldn't that be lovely if that could really happen? But I know him.
Well, it did happen.
It did happen. That's exactly right.
So there's nothing, like there's no, like, and he is here. Like this old idea of their need, when we talk about structure and substance, he is there.
Mm.
You don't have to define your relationship in order for him to be to be there, because he's already there.
Mm. Right.
All you would have to do is call. And my guess is he would be there.
Yeah.
So this definition, this defining, this being like, oh, what if we got back together? Well, you've never been apart.
Well, that's pretty true. We've always been connected.
Right. And so there is this kind of thing of like, why do you want to define it in a way that you have, like, maybe you just involve him in more of your life without having to define it, without having to be anything, without having to put that structure over the love that you guys share.
Right. Okay. I can deal with that.
Because you love him and he loves you. But then maybe the whole idea of putting it, getting married or getting back together, or defining we have to see each other on the weekends. It's like, that's going to get to be too much at some point.
Well, and I don't
for somebody.
Leave Sedona. I don't want to leave Sedona, period.
So just let him be who he is, and just involve. If you feel like you want him, if you feel like it would be nice to have that connection, well, engage the connection you have, because the connection that is inspiring it is already being had. You are already connected, and it's already beautiful. Yeah. So just lean into it a little bit, and you don't have to be like, let's define this thing.
Well, see, I automatically just put myself back in that situation of being married to him, and I never want to go through that again, ever.
No, and that's the old Susan.
Right.
That's the younger student. There's a newer Susan who is, more free.
Yeah.
Who is more yourself. Yeah, absolutely. True. And leaning on the old relationship is leaning on a thing that you say, I was safe here.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't.
I never was safe there.
Right. So why don't you build something in which you are, in which you have a voice, in which you feel like really appreciated, and in which you can really appreciate him.
Yeah, he's matured too. He's mellowed, he's matured, and I've got to give him credit for that. He's not the same man he was 30 years ago or 40 years ago or whatever. And I just... It was so traumatic, Martin John. Okay, Martin John, I'm going to pick number 6.
6?
Yep.
6 is entitled The Great Feminine. Everything is born from the feminine, even heaven and earth. The feminine that births is a mother. She nourishes and supports without possessing. Despite your awareness of it, you're using it right now. That's it. You're using the feminine right now. That's it. What it's saying is that you're using the feminine right now. You're birthing something. In your mind, something is being birthed. Now, you are a mother as well. But every individual, I don't care what their genitalia, births things, births experiences, births ideas, births, And the feminine that births is a mother. You're birthing this idea, and so you're a mother. So you're giving birth to this concept of the relationship that you have with your ex, the all of the past and everything else, and this experience that you had over the weekend. She nourishes and supports without possessing. So you're nourishing and supporting those thoughts. And that's why I can hear in your words before when you said, oh, I considered it for a second, And I'm like, well, it's still rolling around because I can hear that you're nourishing and supporting that which you are birthing. But it nourishes and supports without possessing. And that's the thing.
Perfect.
That you're taking out of the equation. You're nourishing and supporting, but you're holding on to it and you're controlling it. And you're trying to say, this can't be this can't, but you nourish and support you allow those thoughts. And then, just as JK was talking about, well, do you like this? Do you like that you're engaging? Is this something you want to engage in? And you don't have to keep it to yourself. You can call them up and say, hey, I had a really great time over the weekend. I think you've really matured. I want to give you credit for that. And maybe we can just start talking a little bit more. And you don't even have to say that. You can just start doing it.
I sent him a text very much to that effect.
Good.
Exactly. That effect. I said, it was so lovely to be around you in this new mature aspect that we have. We can look back and whatever's gone is gone, and I just really appreciated you for what you were this weekend.
Yeah.
So you're right. I just get so nervous because,
structure gets in the way. Like who you're quote unquote supposed to be gets in the way of you being who you are.
Right.
And all of the things, all of the definitions of what relationships should be gets in the way of what the relationship actually is. And then we can't be honest about where the relationship's going because the relationship is supposed to be a certain way. It's not supposed to be this, right? It's not supposed to end. It's not supposed to fail. Well, yeah, maybe it is. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I get myself in these quandaries when I talk to someone every day for a couple weeks and then I don't talk to them because, maybe I'm busy or I'm doing something else or I'm just not interested in talking to them right now. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you didn't call. Like, no, I didn't. But is that wrong? And then I'm in trouble, right? And it's like, oh God, I put this, I built this expectation in someone else.
Right.
And then it's like, so the feminine that births is a mother. I'm a mother of this routine that I got into, and this other person is the mother of the expectation that they birthed, that I was a part of. It's an idea. And it's like, okay, I'm using it right now, but for what? Right? And then that's the big question. Like, despite your awareness of it, you're using it right now. You're using this supportive mother role. You're using the mother role to nourish and support things around you. And you don't have to be aware of it because it could bring you, if you're not aware of it, oftentimes it brings us grief. So just understand that you're birthing this right now. It's unfolding, and step back, watch it, and say, far out. Look at what's happening. I don't have to define it. Everybody wants you to define things so that they know how to talk to you. They know what you want. They know what direction you're going. It's like that. None of that's important because where you're going is where you're going to end up. You can find out when you get there.
Yeah, perfectly. Just let it be.
Yeah. And I'm so happy for you. Like, that's good. Like, the one, that you had such a great weekend with your family, that you were able to reconnect in a new way with your ex.
In a positive way, which was refreshing. It was just refreshing. I could see him that I fell in love with.
And don't forget that I'm not to pat myself on the back, but you've been listening to this show, and altering just by practicing Tao.
Exactly.
So you've
really turned me around.
You're right. You've been changing. Your husband may not have changed one iota, but your ability to see it has changed. Your ability to witness it. What he says and what you hear have nothing to do with one another. What you were listening to 2 years ago is with a very different set of ears than you're listening to him today. So it might not be anything about him at all.
You're right. Well, you certainly have given me a lot to think about always, Martin John. I'll be pondering this most of the day today, I'm sure. But I love you, and I hope your tooth feels better.
Oh, yeah. We'll ride it out.
That's the mother in me.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, dear.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Love you. Okay. Well, we're right about that time, so I'm going to go ahead and start signing out. If you're interested in connecting with me, you can do so in the links on my profile. We read through 13 with Max, 39 with JK, 6 with Susan, and I read 79 really briefly. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Martin John, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.